Welcome replay viewers, and good evening everybody. Good evening to this beautiful June evening here. It's 7:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and I'm going to zoom in now. We are watching Wednesday night races at the Moriches Yacht Club off in the distance there out on Moriches Bay. So let's see if we can fix this a little bit and get a little better picture of it. We'll just see part of it here because the start line and the finish line is right in the center of our image right now. And what we've seen is the first class of boats, the Flying Scots, have started off on their first race. And now the committee boat is setting up the start for the second class of boats, which from this distance looks to be 420s, or possibly, well, my eyes aren't that good. No, that's not a sunfish. They usually sail sunfish, the younger people, or they sail the 440s or 420s sloops. I see one boat there. Okay, they're off on the course right now, so anyway, let's just see if we can tilt this way a little bit. All right, everybody is on the race course right now. Now the Flying Scots, they're heading upwind because the wind is out of the west-southwest right now, so they're heading up to the windward mark. You can just see them going through the trees there. Hi, welcome. Now, is that a 420 coming up to the start line there? Let's see if we can zoom in a little more. Hello to you. Deborah, how are you? Thank you. Jamie, good evening. Thanks for joining. Looks like there's only one boat in that class, so wherever that boat finishes, they're going to be the first, they'll be the first place winner for tonight. This is the first night of the summer series, Wednesday night racing at the Moriches Yacht Club. Something I used to participate in many years ago when we belonged to the Moriches Yacht Club. And I would race my Flying Scot one class, one design, on Wednesday nights. Also summer Sunday club races, regattas. Yeah, it's a beautiful time of year, obviously, right? And here we are, what, 7 days into summer. 28th today, 29th tomorrow. Right, sure. Last week, the 21st, was the first day of summer, so the 8th day of summer. Sunset here in our area on the East Coast is 8:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tonight. Beautiful day. It started off very cool but dry. Low humidity, low relative humidity. The temperature got up into the mid to high 70s Fahrenheit here today. Right now it's a very comfortable 70 degrees. A little bit of a breeze out of the west-southwest, as I said. You can see from the flag right in the center of the picture. So out on the bay, the wind is probably blowing about 10 knots, 8 to 10 knots, something like that. I don't see any white caps right now, so it's calmed down from earlier this afternoon when it was gusting out there. All right, so here I see the Flying Scot fleet traveling downwind now. To the jibing mark, which will be off to our left I don't know if we can see this in the view here, but there is a hippity hop, an orange hippity hop set just on the left hand side of the screen. You may be able to make that out. That'll be the jibing mark. That's where the boats round that mark, jibe, then they go to the leeward mark. They round that and then they head for the finish line. So here's our first Flying Scot traveling right to left. There's two others close in trail. Let's see how many boats are in this race right now. Well, 3 that we see so far. All right, that's maximum zoom, folks. That's maximum zoom on my iPhone 7. I thought there were more boats than that started. Maybe there's a few stragglers. All right, so there's 3 racing to the jibing mark. So that's a downwind run. Wind is at their backs. Nobody's doing any spinnaker work tonight, though. So this is usually where you fly your spinnaker. All right, they just jibed. The first boat jibed there at the jibing mark. Now it's going to head to the leeward mark, or the most downwind mark. Here come the other 2 boats rounding the mark. And by jibe, I mean the sail actually swings from one side of the boat to the other, from the port side to the starboard side. So that can be a pretty violent maneuver. You have to control it. The center board of the boat has to be up. You have to duck, make sure that boom swinging across doesn't hit you in the noggin. All right, now they're on a tight reach or a close reach, what they call. The wind is across the deck from the port side or the left side. Then they will, well, the leeward mark is out of view here because it's behind that house. It's going to disappear behind that cream-colored 2-story house there. All right, here come 2 more Scots, so they're way in trail. So it looks like the more experienced sailors were jumped to the front. So let's see, that's 4, boat number 4, boat number 5. And I guess that was it, 5 Flying Scots in this race. So they're on the downwind leg right now, these 2 boats that you see. The wind is coming from behind them, but from the starboard side with the starboard angle. So the sail is out to the left, or port. They let the mainsail all the way out, and that drives the boat. All right, the boat number 4 is now rounding the jibing mark. You see, watch how the sail snaps over. See that? I hope you can pick that up with this distance and everything. And I'm describing it to you as I know how it happens with sailing, but as I'm seeing it with my own eyes rather than through the iPhone camera here. There goes the 5th boat rounding the jibing mark. Well, wait a minute. No, he didn't round it yet. Okay, there goes the sail. See, it snaps right across the cabin of the hull of the boat, and then now they trim it in to like a 45-degree angle or less, and then they're on a broad reach or a beam reach. Wind is like almost like 90 degrees to the boat now, and they're still sailing crosswind. Now we should see the leaders very shortly come out from behind that 2-story house, that yellow house or cream-colored house, and they will be heading toward the finish line, which is a little motorboat sitting out there right in the middle of the picture. If you look right in the center of the picture, you'll see a small runabout out there, and that's probably the sailing instructor for the day running the race. Where are they? Come on, boats. Looks like we have another boat traveling along there. That may be what they call a rescue boat or a crash boat. Oh, no, don't, Jim, don't use the word crash. Do not use that. Safety boat out there, in case anything happens. Flying Scott, 19-foot LOA. Really a great boat to sail for racing and also for day sailing. We don't race anymore, but we day sail hours out on the bay. Go out for a few hours when the winds are good. Usually you sail with a crew of 2 in a race, sometimes with 3 when the air is heavy. In other words, the winds are up. You want additional weight in the boat. But most times on Wednesday night races, we would race with 2 people. The skipper and a crewman, forward crewman. The skipper operates the tiller. In other words, he's steering the boat. Usually the main sheet, which controls the main sail. And the crewman, crew person, doesn't have to be a man. I've sailed with many a woman crew. They sit forward and they control the jib sheets or jib lines, which swing the jib sail from side to side. And if we're flying spinnaker, then the forward crew person also hoists the spinnaker, sets the spinnaker pole. All right, here comes the lead boat. You can see he's on a starboard tack now. In other words, the wind is coming over the starboard or right deck, but they're heading upwind, so it's coming at about a 35-degree angle to the bow of the boat, 35 degrees, and they're heading for the finish line. The boat is heeled over to the port side or left side, and the crew is counterbalancing that by sitting up on the rail on the starboard side. And we can watch this finish here. 2 boats very close, and we hear the horn. That's the finish sound for the first race. And I'm sorry I can't zoom in any more than this, but I tell you, next Wednesday night I'm going down to the bayfront to broadcast from down there. Okay, the first boat has crossed the finish line. Win, place, and show. Here comes, see the second one and now the third one heading up. Second one is also on a starboard tack, wind over the starboard deck. Now the third boat is going to tack from port tack to starboard tack. Just made a 90-degree turn to the left or to port, and that's heading for the finish line right now, which is an imaginary line between that power boat that's sitting there and that orange hippity hop that's anchored to the bottom of the bay. It's just floating there on the top of the bay. So that's the start line and the finish line. All right, so 3 boats are across from the Scott fleet from the first race. And we'll stay here and we'll watch the last couple of boats come in, see how they do. They're well in trail. And once the last Scott of this group crosses the line, the committee boat will start the cycle then for the second race. They usually do 3 races on Wednesday night racing. So they'll go through a 3-minute countdown, get everybody ready for the start of the next race. And happy 4th of July as the fireworks around us are starting early. All right, the boat on the left, which is now just sailing behind the bird houses you see right in the front of us, that's still in the race. And here comes the 5th and final boat. You can see it above the Phragmites there, the top of the sail. So boat number 4 has not crossed the finish line yet, but it's very close. It's heading that way. We usually hear the horn go, but the wind is blowing the wrong way for us to pick that up right now, so it would be very difficult to hear that horn that toots to tell you that you've crossed the line. All right, from what I see here though, he's across now. Boat 4 is across the finish line. And now boat number 5 has gone to a starboard tack and is heading upwind toward the finish line. Meanwhile, the first 4 boats are just sailing around, just hanging out in the general area until they get the call for the start of the second race. Okay, boat number 5 is across the line because he's falling off to port to the left, heading to the east. So now the committee boat will sound a horn like a beep, 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 and that's gather everybody together. And they usually do, what they do is a 3-minute dinghy start. They'll give you a mark at 3 minutes, a beep, 2 minutes, minute and a half, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 20-second beep, 10-second beep, and then a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, beep, and that's the start signal. And everybody takes off then for the second race. It's a lot of fun, folks. I really enjoyed it all the years that I was with Moriches Yacht Club, that we sailed out here on Wednesday night. And it was my desire and goal at that time to take out a lot of our new members as crew, people who really were just getting into sailing and wanted to learn. So we'd go out there and sail with whoever we could convince to go sailing with us, to go out and enjoy it on a Wednesday night, get the feel of it. That was a lot of fun in those days. All right, I'm going to keep broadcasting here until we see the start of the second race. Now let's see if I can just turn this a little bit more this way, since we're not going to see anything to the left of the house there. So I'll put that house, 2-story house, at the left end of the image, and we'll keep the starting line and the committee boat just to the left of center. It's just to the left of the flagpole, and then we should be able to see the boats when they cross the start line. They'll head to the right, which is to the westerly direction, southwest direction. Meanwhile, we're still waiting for that one boat that sailed in the second class there, the smaller one. My guess is it's a 420 or... Hey, oh, here it comes now. You see it, just a little sail above the greenery there. It's just past the cream-colored house, so that's sailing now for the finish line to complete its first race. And that boat will be the winner of that class tonight, because nobody else is out there challenging him or her. Usually the smaller boats like that are being sailed by the advanced sailing students, the youngsters, the young people who take sailing lessons during the day. Probably on the order of, the 12-year-olds, 12 to 14, 15-year-olds. But they are out there, and I'm sorry to see that there's not more boats out there tonight, but maybe next week, next Wednesday night. Should get about 8 races, 8 weeks of racing in this summer between now and early August. 6 to 8 weeks. I wish I could zoom a little more for this, but that's max zoom right now. And I have my iPhone and my tripod, so it's pretty steady picture. Let's hope it stays steady. All right, we'll cover one more start, one more race. Let's see how long it takes them to get going. Because the time is 7:26 now. All right, there was the sound for the smaller boat just crossed the finish line. All right, I don't know if you were able to pick that up or not, but he was blowing the air horn. Beep, 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 beep. So that's okay. Boats assemble for the dinghy start for race 2. Get together, everybody. So the Scots will gather now near the start line. Chirp, chirp. I see my cardinals down here in the bird feeder eating sunflower seed. Yeah, that's a good breeze out there tonight. It's blowing 10 to 12 miles an hour at least. Okay, that's 3 minutes. 3 minutes to go now to the start of the next race. Not sure if our audio on our iPhone picked that up or not, but I'll walk us through it as I hear it here. All right, so about 2.5 minutes to start of the second race. Thanks for the likes. And I promised what I'll do next Wednesday night, I will go down to the town dock, which is down on the bayfront, is right next to the Moriches Yacht Club. 1, 2, so there's the 2-minute mark, and we'll do a live broadcast of the Wednesday night races from much closer up. We'll get more of the action. Now let's hope that these boats start to collect themselves. All right, 90 seconds. Long, 3 shorts. 1 minute, 30 seconds. But only 2 boats are gathering near the start line. Well, the other 3 better get up there. Here comes the third one. One minute. Comes another one. So there's a fleet of 5 flying Scots. "30 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Beep, beep, 20 seconds. Beep, 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, there they go. And 3 boats are across the line right at the start call. 4th boat is lagging a little to the rear, and I don't know where the 5th Scott is. Hard to say. But at least they're out there. All right, they crossed the start line on a starboard tack, and then the first 3 boats now have just tacked to starboard, and now they're on a port tack. In other words, the wind is over the port side of the boat, or the left side of the boat, and they're heading upwind to the windward mark, which unfortunately for us is behind those trees. We should see them come in that gap in the trees there, just to the right hand side of the screen. All right, the 4th boat is across the start line, but where's boat 5? Hope it didn't drop out. Again, I'm sorry, this is maximum zoom, so we're not going to see much more detailed action than what we're seeing right now. But next week we will be closer to the waterfront. We'll go down to the bayfront and we'll set up shop down there next Wednesday night. All right, the 4th boat now has tacked and is on a port tack heading for the windward mark, the upwind mark. So he's sailing into the wind. You know, you talk about basically you sail, okay, there's the three lead boats right in that little gap, right in the right-hand side of the screen. So they're almost to the windward mark. And then they'll round that mark and head downwind on the downwind leg to the jibing mark. Basically, when you sail into the wind, you can sail 45 degrees one direction to 45 degrees the other direction. That's nominal. And you zigzag up the upwind into the wind. But with a Flying Scot, you can actually trim the sails and the rigging to actually get pointed much higher into the wind. You can probably get Flying Scot pointed up 35 degrees off the wind. Some of the more experienced people even get tighter than that. Obviously, you can't sail straight into the wind, or the sail will just, what they call luff, just flap back and forth, right? And there's no wind coming over the sails. All right. So the boats are out of the picture right now, and I guess the 5th boat dropped out. But we'll watch the 4 that are in this race come downwind in a minute. All right, on the extreme right-hand side of the image, you see the 4th boat still sailing upwind on a port tack. All right, I'm being silent. I'm just keeping my eyes open where I can see the water, where I can catch a glimpse of the sails as they go on their downwind leg toward the jibing mark. Don't see anybody yet. Now, as the evening goes on and the sun gets lower in the sky, I mean, we're 7:35 right now, the winds tend to calm down. So when we first start racing, they nominally race between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., but by the time everybody gets started, the first race usually doesn't get started till about 6:40, 6:45. And it's pretty breezy the first race, but then as the sun gets lower and lower, the winds decrease. So the boats start to slow down from that. All right, here comes the first boat all the way over to the right side of the picture. That boat is on the downwind leg right now. The mainsail is extended all the way out to the port side of the boat, and it's catching the wind behind it, coming from behind it, and running it downwind toward the jibing mark. So let's hope in the next few weeks we get to see people who are out there flying their spinnakers, very colorful sails for downwind racing. I had an American flag type spinnaker that I used. In other words, it was red, white, and blue horizontal stripes. That was very colorful. Still have it. These boats have slowed down because the wind is slacking off now. All right, here comes the lead, Scott. That boat is about 3/4 of a mile away from us, maybe even a little more than that. But it's moving very smartly downwind. Second boat is about 10 boat lengths behind it, and the third boat is about 5 boat lengths behind the second boat. So they're spread out right at the beginning, the first 3 boats. And then I guess the 4th boat is way back to the rear there. All right, let's see what happens here, if we can catch them at the jibing mark. First boat is almost there, so it'll turn to port, turn to the left. And there goes the mainsail, snaps right across the boat. And now the wind is over the port side of the boat, or the left side of the boat. Now he's sailing down crosswind. So you trim your sail back into about between 45 and 30 degrees setting. And this is the fastest point of sail. Reaching, the boat moves the fastest. Oh, thanks, Dutch. Hey, thank you very much. Hey, good to see you here. I'm glad you joined me. I'm sorry that we don't really get to see that much of the action. I'm on my deck at my home, and the boats you see sailing out there are probably about, well, half a mile or 3/4 of a mile almost away from me. This is Wednesday night racing at the Moriches Yacht Club racing. Flying Scots are out there racing. And I promise next Wednesday night I will make sure I get down to the bayfront, to the town dock, which is right next to the yacht club, and we'll be able to pick up the action a lot closer from down there, about a mile closer. Now, the first 3 boats are behind that cream-colored house you see on the left side of the picture, and they're going to round the downwind or leeward mark very shortly, and we'll see them coming from left to right, heading back toward the finish line. All right, the 4th boat we see is still traveling downwind way out in the distance there. And the little runabout boat right in the middle of the image, just to the left of the flagpole, that's the committee boat, that's the finish line. And they probably have at least one boat out there for rescue purposes, or, you know, just general safety reasons. They usually have a safety boat out there. Not that these things capsize that readily, but if you have inexperienced crews out there, you know, things can happen. My boat is under wraps here in the backyard. I don't race anymore. I don't sail competitively anymore, but we do use it for day sailing, so I have to think about getting that boat ready to use this summer. Kathy, well, become a follower of mine on YouTube. I'm doing all of my broadcasting now on YouTube live broadcasting. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, JKR SpecNet, JKR SPECNET, and you'll catch all of my live action right here on YouTube. And of course, you always have the replays on there. All right, we don't see anything right now because all 4 boats that are sailing are off to the oh, okay, well, this is how it's supposed to work. If you subscribe to my channel, you should get a notification via YouTube when I'm broadcasting live. Also, what I've discovered here, and others know this, if I at the start of a live YouTube broadcast, if I share it on Twitter, then those who follow me on Twitter will get a notification. That's how the system's supposed to work. Now, we've been doing YouTube live broadcasts for, well, the last 5 weeks or so now. I swapped over about the same time that Dutch Mars in Brooklyn was making the plunge from Periscope to YouTube live. Well, I'm sorry that you're home on bereavement leave, and I wish you all of your, you know, very best regards with respect to that. And I hope you can just enjoy what we're seeing here now. As I promised earlier in this broadcast, next Wednesday night for these Wednesday night races, I'm going to get much closer to the action. This is the first week of about 7 weeks of Wednesday night sailing at the Moriches Yacht Club, Wednesday night racing. Something that I used to participate in many years ago. Now, come on, boats, where are you? They went to that downwind mark, which is off out of sight behind that house to the left. And we should see the boats. Oh, here comes the first one now. Look at the house, right? There's the sail of the lead Flying Scot. So now that's sailing toward the finish line for the second race. So that's the lead boat. Flying Scot is a 19-foot one design, they call it, day sailor. Sloop. In other words, it has a forward jib and it has a mainsail. 2-sail boat. Here comes the second boat. And they're both sailing upwind on a starboard tack. Excuse me, I didn't mean to hit the camera there. I'm sorry for that. Let's get this finish right in the center here. All right. See if I can hear the horn, the finish horn. There it is. Okay, so that's the end of the race. The lead boat, obviously the winner. Win, place, and show, just like the horse racing, right? So the second and the third boat are dueling it out for who will come in second. Pretty tight, but it looks like the middle boat will cross the line as the second finisher. And again, I'm at maximum zoom right now, folks, so this is just a taste of what's happening out there. And next week we'll get closer to the action from the town dock, which is a mile away from here. All right, second boat's across, then the third boat is across. So that's the finish of the second race for the Flying Scots. Usually they do a 3-race set here on the Wednesday night racing. Club members. Very good. Okay, well, I hope everybody enjoyed that little taste of that. And thanks for joining tonight. Let me zoom out, show you. Well, I don't want to zoom out too much because now you're going to catch my deck umbrella. Yeah, let me finish up like that. This is looking to the south out over Moriches Bay here on eastern Long Island. And the time right now is 7:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thanks again for joining tonight, folks, and we will be on the air again hopefully tomorrow. And again, I will promise you that next Wednesday night, weather permitting, I will get much closer to this action of the Wednesday night racing. It'll be more meaningful than to see it up close. Although some people say watching sailboat races is like watching the grass grow. But for those of us who sail, it's pretty interesting, pretty neat. And I hope you folks enjoyed that. Just a heads up to my followers here, my subscribers on YouTube, my YouTube channel, JKR SpecNet, JKR SPECNET. This Friday is going to be a busy one for me with live broadcasts. Okay, Dutch, see you on your radio broadcast. This will be the big weekend for Long Island Railroad trains, bringing people out to the east end of Long Island for the 4th of July, the extended 4th of July weekend. So we're going to be covering a lot of that action out at West Hampton Railroad Station, culminating with the Long Island Railroad's Cannonball, which brings, well, over 2,000 people on that train out to the east end of Long Island on Friday evening, Friday afternoon. All right, thanks again for joining, folks, and we're going to sign off now. Take care, everybody.